Coming up next on Not the 9 to 5 podcast.
My project manager, hey Maddie, who by the way, I only employ actors at this moment in time. We'll see if I can keep it up. But everyone who works for me is an actor. They're all female presenting actresses. That's what we are told, right? You have to have a big platform and a big stage and do these things. And if you're going to be here long term, you're going to have to deal with the fact that it's not going to look like what you wanted it to.
So I think it's so easy to spiral and to just doubt all the time. And it is that industry where you can, because you start questioning yourself, you start comparing yourself.
It is a lot of pressure you're putting on yourself of other people's opinions. But let me tell you something, they don't care.
Welcome to Not the 9 to 5,
The podcast for freelancers
by freelancers.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out,
Join us as we share insights, tips and stories.
to help you thrive in the world of independent work.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Francesca.
We are two freelancers exploring the highs, lows
And everything in between. So grab your coffee, kick back,
and let's dive into another episode of Not the 9 to 5.
Katheryn Siggers.
Francesca Marago.
Hello.
Hello. How are we?
I'm really good.
Good. Why are you so good
I'm
today?
so excited.
Are you?
I
Go
am.
on, tell us
You know
what
I
you've
am.
got. I
Been
know
talking
you
about
are.
it
I
all
know
week.
you are.
So we've got Sam here from One Broke Actress. So Sam started her career as an actress in the Midwest in the States before moving to LA to start her career in film and television. Sam created and runs One Broke Actress, a SAG-AFTRA signatory podcast and platform dedicated to sharing the honest world of the working actor. She also created and runs Fast Forward Productions, a podcast production company for modern female voices. When she is not working, which isn't often enough for her taste, she is walking and probably carrying her 3 senior rescue dogs with her husband in West Hollywood. And she loves popcorn. So there we go.
Oh my God.
We love popcorn. So
Oh my God. And here they are.
This is one, and there's 2 behind me on the bed. So you have a litany of choices.
What are
here.
their names?
This is Solo. This is Solovino. It's Spanish for he came alone. So he was named by the people who found him. And then the blonde behind me is Trudy. And the sleeping dumpling is Willow. So we have just
Oh my gosh, gorgeous.
So cute.
lots of dogs.
I mean, we could do the whole podcast on just your dogs.
Oh, don't even get me started. They have such intense backstories. Like they all have their own voices. They all have their own people jobs. They have like relatives in our brain.
Of course they do.
I spend too much time at home. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So tell us a bit more about you, Sam. Kind of where did it all start?
To be honest, I started because my work beyond just my acting career really started because I wasn't doing well in my acting career. I was in LA, just flailing around, trying to do everything everyone told me to do. And I had watched every single show I thought I could be on, everything in the CW, which doesn't even exist anymore. I was like, I'm just going to show up and they're probably just going to give me jobs. Like I had my 5-year plan from college was embarrassing. Like I really thought this was going to look a certain type of way. And LA was a real big smack in the face for like everyone came here to do what you want to do. And you're actually not very good at it yet. And you're going to have to figure some things out. And the problem that comes with that is that most actors are told they need to work like lots of side jobs that are flexible. And I felt like there was a time clock on all of them. I felt like I couldn't be a nanny for much longer. I felt as though, if you're a nanny and you're older than me, I think that's awesome. If you're happy, you're happy. I don't care. For some reason, I needed to do something more. I needed to have something that was more on my level because there was a cap of how much I could work and how much money I could make. And this job is really expensive. Being an actor is expensive. And I wanted more things in my control. So I had a hobby at the time, which was podcasting. And I started a podcast in 2016 with a friend called Not According to Plan. We had done it for a few years. I had started a blog at that point called One Broke Actress, just being like, here's the honest truth of how hard this is and why when people say to me, why don't you try TV? It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And how much time and money you have to put in before you get anything back from this business. And it evolved. And I just always did the next inevitable step. I never thought I would own companies I still can't believe that people let me do things that I do. I can't believe I get paid. I can't believe all of when I describe like owning an S Corp LLC, I'm not old enough for this. I feel like someone should card me. But I just always followed the next inevitable step. And so now I make a decent income from my side businesses. There's no necessarily cap, quote unquote, on how much they can make. And it's actually fueled my acting career in so many ways. So it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Sounds
Have you always been interested in then acting from a young age? Is that something that's
Yeah.
always been your passion? How did that start?
Yeah, I wish I wanted to do something else because it would sound so nice to just want to be an accountant.
No.
There's a ladder.
I mean, Matt.
Oh God, I know. But think about your weekends would be filled with activities, and you would go to work, and there would be a time you clock in, and there's a day you clock out, and you have a busy season,
Right.
and you know it's coming. Like I envy the wanting less
Yeah.
because I always wanted a big life. When I grew up in those Midwest states, I always knew I was going to go somewhere else. I always knew I was going to do quote unquote big things. Who knows what those big things are? Maybe it's this right now. I don't know if it's going to be more than this, but if this is it, I'm really happy about whatever's happening right now. I always knew there was more, and I was always interested in the acting thing. I did every single thing I could get my hands on, which in my small communities was not a lot. There was not a lot available in these small, underfunded local theater programs, or like in the plays we did in my high school cafegimatorium. There wasn't just a whole lot of options, but I did everything I could, and my parents were super supportive, which they had no reason to be. There was no data that any of this would work out in any capacity, and they just blindly supported. It's not like they handed me cash and was like, go out and do this, darling. They just said, oh, you want to go do these plays in downtown Waterloo, Illinois? Okay, great. Well, every Wednesday and Thursday, we'll go drop you off and pick you up because it's what you want to do. And I'm very grateful for that because it's a really hard job alone. And I can't imagine what it was like without that support. So I just blindly did it. There's never been anything else I wanted as much as this.
Mm, mm. And then what made you then take the leap to go to LA? Tell us about that.
This was the place I always wanted to go. I am a California person who was born in Missouri. I love the sun. I love trees. I love a busy city. I love people. I like socializing. I'm very, I love LA. The weather is to die for. When I moved here, we didn't have mosquitoes. We have them now. Global warming's real, but it's like, it's such a special, unique type of place. And I've been to New York, and I've never worked in New York, but I feel the vibe of New York, and I never identified with it. I considered moving to somewhere like Chicago because it was closer to home, but it felt like it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough of a stretch. And this is where we have to denote privilege. So I am a middle-class white woman who grew up in a predominantly middle-class family, and I had help. They paid for college, right? Like I didn't come out here with a shit ton of debt and very little options. I have, generational wealth of just being in a white family. And that is something I think you have to note on these conversations, because the fact that I could choose where I wanted to live and not be boxed in. And yes, I came out here and I earned every dollar I've ever made. And I've, done all of the financial things I could possibly do. But at the same time, you have to, like, having that base is just, it's so privileged to be able to choose where you want to grow your life.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great to note, because I think a lot of the time, I know I go, oh, it's so hard, I'm struggling so much, but actually, like you, I've got supportive parents. I've got those people who are rallying behind me. I'm able to do that because of their support and because of my privilege in life. So I think that's a really great point to make.
And especially in acting, because it's such an unknown career in terms of how successful you could be. And it's like they always say, right place, right time. It's all about luck. It's all about, and it's constantly that saying. At the end of the day, you want to showcase your work through the arts. You want to impact people and tell stories for a living. How cool is that? Not many people get to say that. but it's so hard
Yeah.
to get it. Is it really congested in LA then with the amount of people that might want to do that? Do you think that's the hot spot for, I guess, for your career to take off in LA?
Yeah. To jump off of your previous statement, absolutely, this is a job where you have to pay into it before it pays you back, which is so it's horrific because you can get taken advantage of really easily with that kind of mentality. But yeah, I like how saturated the market is because I don't have to over explain myself. When I talk to people in Los Angeles and I say I'm an actor, the chances of them being in the business is 1 in 2. They might be in music, they might be in production, they might, behind the camera, something else. But so many people, it's just everyone's in this world here. And if not, they understand that they're an outlier, that they're not in the business, they're a normie, they're just like a regular person living in LA, paying a staggering cost of living because they like it, which is interesting. But everyone, I think so many people out here have aspirations of the business. So it makes it really easy to say what you're doing and to live your life. And people are very forgiving of when you get a job. So all of the jobs I've had, I always lead with the fact that I'm an actor. Before, in 2019 and before, I would say like I might need to go to an audition in the middle of the day, and I would have to figure out my way around that. Now you don't really do that very much anymore, so it's not as much of an issue. But I would always lead with that, and it was very accepted. Whereas if you're in a different market, it's not as simple. Even places like New York, where there's so much acting and there's tons of Broadway and theater, it's not as widely accepted because you can do lots of things in New York. Lots of companies are based there. And same with places like Atlanta, where having a creative job is just now becoming a decent part of their statewide income. So I like that fact. But yeah, it is a lot of people come here and they come here like I did. Like a lot of people come here blind, just thinking like, well, once I get to LA, everything will get easier. And it's like, no, like once you get to LA, we're in the Olympics. It's like we're like the top percentage. And then you join the actors union and it's like you're in this top percentage of actors. And it's going to be that you want the competition to be fierce because you want to play at the highest level. I want to audition for things that are probably going to go to a celebrity because that means I was seen by a casting director who's also casting celebrities. But that's a mindset shift that it takes a long time to be able to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how have you kind of then shifted your mindset into kind of thinking that way, so positively, as opposed to being negative and down and I didn't get the job or whatever?
Prozac?
Love that.
I mean, I'm 25% joking, but yes, I did start working on my mental health significantly, and that has made a huge difference. And I think there's a weird thing about artists that we should be some sort of tortured soul, and I don't abide. I disagree. I think the better you are, the better work you can do because you can be mentally stable and you can work long term. So, yes, that has been super helpful in my process. So has been building my own businesses and making my own money. So I'm not reliant upon the myriad of things that have to go right in order to get an acting job is so precise and every domino has to fall just in the right way. And it's so much work that I have no pull on. There's so little I can do in so much of the back end other than do my audition and do my job that I like to know that I have money. I like to know that my income is set. I love my life in Los Angeles, and that took a long time because it's expensive. And to be able to build my own businesses and make my own money has freed me up so much to enjoy the process of my acting career and not put like a quick little time turnaround on it. I have to make money this week or else I'm not going to be able to pay rent. I have 3 businesses that pay rent. So I'm not concerned about the acting job. I make more money than all of my side jobs combined than my acting job at this moment in time, which has freed me up to get better and better at this career, which will only make me last in it longer.
Yeah. It's a control versus no control kind of thing. From what you're saying is that you want that stability of like, I guess, a 9 to 5 in terms of your businesses. You know that you've got that steady income so that you can relax so that you can relax to an extent in the
Yeah.
acting side, because you don't have that control in the acting side really.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's what I find really difficult with
Mhm.
tapes and stuff, is like you'll get selected for tapes and you do it, but then you don't have control after that, do you?
Yeah,
You can't
that's
say to
it.
the casting director, look, pick me. You can only
Yeah.
do that through your tape,
That's it. That's all you can
and then
do.
the rest is
Yeah.
in their hands.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
it's tough.
Yeah. You can't, there's nothing you can do beyond that. And to make it just, and it could be the smallest thing. Like, this is where we get in our heads too, which we really have to let go of as actors, is like, but if I wore red lipstick, they would have seen that I could have been a little bit more deep into the character. And sometimes it is that small, but if you can realize sometimes it's just that small. So there's nothing you can do about it. You can only do the best you can. It kind of releases some of that tension. And also, I'm here forever. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not proving anything to anyone anymore, which is a gift of getting older in this business. When I was in my early 20s, I was like, this is how it has to look, and I have to achieve things this way, and I have to make money this way. And that is a vice grip on life that you really don't have control over in any business, not just creative ones.
Yeah. And so talk us through some of the, I guess, struggles. I mean, you've touched upon some struggles already, but tell us about the struggles that it's kind of taking you to get to this point a little bit more. Anything that's kind of stuck out in your head.
Oh God. In business, in acting, where do you want to go with it?
We want to get so deep.
We love
okay,
it.
we're all about getting deep on this podcast. But let's start business. Let's start your sort of more freelance life. Like, where have the struggles been, and how have you kind of overcome them?
I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. Selling things online, understanding that I had worth to what I was doing. I always just did the next thing, which was almost better than having some big picture view of what I thought I wanted to do. Because, for example, in creating my podcast production company, which is the bulk of my overall earnings for my corporation, for my S Corp, I did not start out saying one day I'm going to own a production company and I'm going to make this much money and it's going to look like this and it's going to be like this. And I was editing my own podcast, and I had a friend who came to me and said in the pandemic, she was doing well in her business in the pandemic. And she said, would you like to edit my podcast? I said, absolutely. So I did what I did to get by, which was very mediocre editing. Cut, click, paste, combining tracks. Like, I was not an audio engineer by any means. I was doing just enough because that was how much she was like, no, as long as it's done, I don't care. So I was doing all that work. And then she is an entrepreneur herself. Her name's Ashley Pollard. She runs a business called Team AP. She has multiple different companies, and she loves to start businesses. And she said, this is a business. What you're doing is a business, and I will help you start it. And then I want to see what happens. And she helped guide me. We have a contract between the two of us of how much money she makes after we hit a certain cap. I got a website. We just started going. And for the first 6 months, we had maybe one or two clients beyond what I already had for the podcasts I was editing. And then I thought, well, if it didn't work in the first 6 months, nothing's working. And it was very complicated to believe in myself when there wasn't any money coming in. Because in acting, I know if I'm doing auditions, I'm doing a good job. That's how I need to be constantly working. If there was no work to be done in the business, I was like, well, I don't really know how to validate this. How do I know that we're doing good work? So then it came to marketing, and then it came to outgrowth and getting word of mouth out, and a lot of things that just don't give you any like hit spark right away. It's a long-term growth.
Yeah.
And I just would do the next inevitable step. Okay, great. We probably need an Instagram. Great. Okay, great. Now what do we want to do with this branding? Okay, great. Now maybe I'd go chat with some other podcasts and tell them what I do. Okay, it was just like one thing at a time, and not because it was a big plan, because it was just the next step that showed up.
Yeah.
And then turning my LLC into an S Corp, getting a DBA, so many letters, all of these things. I didn't have an ultimate plan. I just did the next thing I was supposed to do that felt right, or the next opportunity I was given. And that it was actually a huge blessing in disguise. But the first year of the company, we were barely making money, which is fine because our overhead was low. It was me and one employee. And this year, I think we have 6 or 7 retainer clients and
Amazing.
maybe just a new one we signed yesterday. And I have a project manager. So I'm no longer the steam engine behind all of my businesses, because that's where I was really hitting a wall every day, thinking like, okay, is everyone taken care of? Is everyone taken care of? And then I had to take care of myself in the process. So those were definitely, that was a big piece of that business puzzle, was kind of just letting it flow and not trying to be so claws in every single day.
Yeah, because you naturally get a pressure, don't you, with these
That's
things? So
it,
you need
that's
to reach
it.
that goal. You need to be at a certain stage with this because it's a
Yeah.
business. So you need to be business orientated and have this business mindset, understand the finances. And it's just like, sometimes we just want to be creatives and like not do that
It's
side.
too much. Yeah, when we it's really interesting that you're saying all this, because when we originally started this podcast, we were like, right, we don't want to be doing all the like editing and the background stuff and the like all the stuff, all the business stuff that goes alongside it. But we were like, well, how do we do that if we don't start doing that in the first place? And I think it's really interesting that you said there's like long-term growth. I think for both of us, I think I can speak for both of us when it says it's quite reassuring, because we're at a point now where, we're starting to build and we've got traction, but it's like, I want the next thing. I want the next thing. I want the next thing. And I suppose we just need to trust the process, like you're saying.
For sure. Consistency is growth.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then I don't care. Nobody correct me, because that's all I have. Like we don't have, you guys, there's so much going on in the world that I think about it. And like, there are literal wars going on. There is so much going on. And I'm like, man, I wish I could get 1,000 more Instagram followers. No, it doesn't.
It's so silly, isn't it?
It's so silly what you can, and you see business coaches online who are like, I help people get 6 figures. Okay, cool. But how much of that did they spend in that year? What were their write-offs for their business? What's the actual net of this business versus gross income? Because I don't believe a lot of you guys. And there's just so much of this is about consistency. I think just staying in it. And same with acting, right? It's just, to me, and listen, I'm not a guru. I'm not the best actress in the world. If I was, guys, we wouldn't have time to be doing this podcast because I'd be on set, and I'm not. So in the meantime, we're hanging out. We're doing this podcast until we're on set. But I've had so much time to get better because I bought time by staying consistent. And if this is what this life is, then that's fine with me. And I think consistency, like in the podcast space, in the creative space, it's all, not everything's going to be a hit. Not everyone's going to buy or sell, and not everyone's going to listen to what you make. Not everyone's going to watch what you do. But if you can show up to do it consistently for you, and then you will get better instantly without even realizing it. And your audience is going to grow too, easily.
So where does the motivation come for you then in it? Because you've got to have a drive, don't you?
Yeah, what's your drive?
Because it is tiresome.
Like, what's your intention as well? Like, what's your motivation? What's your intention for doing all of this?
Yeah.
This is One Broke Actress actually got me up in the morning a lot during the pandemic, especially. It was very much more of a hobby before the pandemic. And there were times where I thought, like, why am I even doing this? I had terrible reps. I wasn't, like, my agents were not good. I wasn't getting good auditions. What is the point of this? And the thing I had to hold on to was that I was showing people that it is possible to stay in this career, even though it doesn't look like what you wanted it to. And that to me turned into motivation the bigger it got. When you first start doing that kind of stuff, it feels useless because you're shouting into a void. no one's listening. No one's invested. It's easier for me to say now because people listen and people watch and people care. But at first, no one cares. You have to make them care.
Yeah.
And my motivation, I don't actually know. I think I like to be doing things. And this job of acting is kind of full of empty spaces and free time. Even when you're booked, like when you're on set, you're sitting in a trailer for 6 hours before they need you on set sometimes. Or then it takes like 45 minutes to set up a shot, and then you film it twice, and then they move the camera, and so you have another 45 minutes to sit. And those moments are in between are so much more. That's like 90% of the work is dealing with the in between. And I was like, well, how do I make in between interesting? How do I make free time interesting? And I'm curious, so I like talking to people. I get excited to help. And all of the stuff I do with the podcast is also creative. When I meet with my clients and we think of their next 6 weeks of episodes, and we bust out some awesome ideas, and I feel so good afterwards. So it is very personally validating on another level. And you guys are also catching me on a good day. I'm in a really good place in my menstrual cycle. So like, I got a lot of energy.
Oh my God. Are you ovulating? When I'm ovulating, I'm like on fire. I'm like, boo, boo, boo. Honestly.
Yes. The first 2 weeks and like that 5 middle day period in the middle. Yeah. Those are really good for me. That's another thing. It's the gift of owning your own business, right? It can be like, okay, I can actually tell you that in 2 weeks, no one should talk to me and I'm going to want to leave the internet.
Put it in the calendar.
And when you know those things, it's really easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very motivated today, but like some days I do want to shut it down. And having your own businesses is nice because I'm in a place where fast forward, I can say to my project manager, hey, Maddie, who, by the way, I only employ actors at this moment in time. We'll see if I can keep it up. But everyone who works for me is an actor. They're all female presenting actresses, all across. One's a voiceover actress, 2 are up and coming actresses in Los Angeles, one's an actress in New York City, and I'm part of their freelance money, which feels really cool. And there's no pressure quite like needing to pay people. It's a lot.
Definitely.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I was just going to go back to the topic of motivation because it really resonated with me because I've been following your personal journey on One Broke Actress for the last 4 years or so, like COVID time.
Oh, wow.
Because I've worked in the film industry from behind the scenes and I got so in a rut with it because, the hours are so long. Obviously, it is for an actor, but for me, in terms of location management and producing.
No, it's way worse for you.
It's just on set for like 18 hours a day and then it rolls on to the next day and so forth. So I got stuck in this motion of like, I really enjoyed it, but I lost the creative side of me because I've always done acting since I was 5. And I saw a video of yours like back in COVID and I was like, oh my God, I love this. Like she's so real and she's just saying it how it is. So I started following your journey. So like when you said that you'd be on the pod and stuff, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, literally.
Like I can't believe it.
I got like an all caps message.
I was like, I can't believe it because I was like, you helped me get back into acting again. And that's when I decided to make a shift with my life. And I said that I want to do the filmmaking stuff, but I also want to get back into acting. And that's what I did. So that's how we met.
That's how we met.
On a play.
Wait, stop it. God. But like when people say that kind of thing to me, I'm like, well, yeah, I got to go back to Instagram and post another story because there's one person who's going to see it who might be like that. That is wild because we're told that I should need to be like a series regular on a major show in order to have an impact on people. That's what we are told, right? You have to have a big platform and a big stage and do these things. I made an Instagram video in 2020 and I know what my Instagram videos looked like in 2020 and they weren't great. And it still mattered. Like that's a cool feeling. That takes the pressure off of building a career a lot for me. It takes off that like innate nature to need more because I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing, which is living the life I want and showcasing the truth of it to where I'm not afraid to run into you at like a Trader Joe's because you would know, you know who I am. And that feels not gross to me. Those people who like front on social media, I don't know how they go to the grocery store. I really don't. I really don't. But that's really cool. Thank you for telling me that. That's really cool.
It just makes an impact because we say this with the podcast. Sometimes we go, oh my God, do people find value in what we talk about? Like, do they relate? Like, is it worth it? Yeah. And you have that imposter syndrome and you go around a spiral with it. But we always say if we at least impact one person, that's our job done.
That's it. If we can make someone's day a little bit easier,
Yeah. And if you put those listener numbers always feel podcast listeners are hard. It is hard to get people to listen to your podcast because they need to trust you to fill time. And there's no algorithm quite like social media, quite like Instagram or YouTube where you're being delivered new content. So podcasts, they need to find you and they need to like you because very rarely are you delivered new podcast listeners inside of the apps. And it's a big ask, but like, let's say you have 30 listeners. If 30 people came to a restaurant and sat down for a talk you were giving, you would feel successful as fuck.
Yeah, it's so true.
Literally.
We never thought of it that way.
No,
but in that room, if there were 30 people in that room with you being like, talk to us, you'd be like, this is wild.
Yeah,
literally.
That's so true.
Do you feel a pressure at any point, with all your followers? Like, do you ever feel pressure around that?
I'm like kind of a baby still on Instagram. I don't have that many followers enough that it really matters. So no, and I've also carved, I think the gift of not being for everyone, like my content is so niche and is like, this is working actor life. And if you don't want to be this or you're not in this, it is nonsense. It is so silly. It's so like inside baseball that I've developed such a the people on the internet who I get to talk to every day are really cool. And 99.9% of people are totally understanding of what I'm doing and they're in on the joke and they're in on the fun. And I feel like I've carved out this like lovely little niche of people who understand when I say like, I need to disappear for like 4 days. Bye. Nothing. And nobody even notices. The internet's so big. There's so much content. Nobody notices when you disappear. But so no, because I've the gift of having a small but mighty following that I've worked on is that everyone really kind of gets it. They're kind of in on it. So I don't feel a lot of pressure necessarily. I feel pressure to pay my employees. That is my biggest thing is I want to make enough money that I can eventually pay them all way more money than I do right now. But like we'll get there. I do feel some pressure to book sometimes because I feel like I need street cred to back up the stuff I say. When I say like you could have a business outside your acting career and still be successful. You can have a personal life that's happy and not a hot mess. You can have more than $5 in your bank account. I do feel sometimes the need to really reinforce that. And I don't get to that often, but that's also very real. That like this job, you very rarely book jobs. It's not that common.
Yeah.
So, it's that middle ground of like, and then it'll be interesting when something does pop off at some point. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I squished your head. I apologize.
Oh, no.
Sorry, crunching my dog. When something does pop off at some point, it will be interesting to see who's along for the ride outside of the struggle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm kind of a fancy girl. I like nice things. Like I'm gonna buy a purse at some point that's unrelatable. I'm going to wear an outfit that people don't like. I'm going to, one day I'll be able to buy a home instead of rent one. And it will be a little less relatable. And I'm very curious how that process will go. But just like everything else, I'm going to cross that bridge when I come to it.
That's it.
100%.
That's it. You can't deal with it until it's there. So why bother thinking about it?
Yeah, it does cross the mind.
Yeah. What's then one piece of advice you'd give to someone thinking about going into acting?
I think that no one cares about you as much as you care about you. It's my favorite thing that anyone's ever told me because it really frees you up because acting is a very long game. It is, you're always going to be better than you used to be, which is a gift. It's the best part and worst part. When you film something and you see it a year later, you're like, oh, I'm so much better than that now. That's called quality. That's a good thing, right? We always want to be better than what we just did. And it's such a long game of playing in that arena. There's the end. There's no place where you're like, Daniel Day-Lewis is not like, oh, my left foot was the best thing I ever did. So I'm going to be done now. Like the goal is just to keep playing. So you want to just get better. And if you're going to be here long term, you're going to have to deal with the fact that it's not going to look like what you wanted it to, probably. I think very few people have the career they expect from the outset. And if you add on top of that harshness, pressure of people expecting things from you and people expecting you to be, oh, I'm the girl in high school who said, I'm always going to move to LA. I was voted most likely to be famous. And then you come out here and you don't work for your first 10 years. It is a lot of pressure you're putting on yourself of other people's opinions. But let me tell you something, they don't care. Everyone has their own shit. No one's paying attention to you as much as they think they are. And just keep your blinders on and do your work because it's just, you don't need that extra stress on this. You really don't. That message was for Sam Valentine circa 2011. You're here. You've made it. You're okay. And congrats, you have 3 dogs.
Well done. Absolutely crushing it.
So good.
Brilliant. No, that's wonderful advice that I'm sure is going to be so useful to so many of our listeners.
No.
What's your guys' advice?
Oh,
what would you give to people? And it could be in business or in creative careers. Like, what's your guys' favorite piece of advice? Can I have it?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I would say belief. is so important. Believing in yourself first and foremost is the most important thing. Without that belief, how is everyone else going to believe in you, you know, at the end of the day? So I think it's so easy to spiral and to just doubt all the time. And it is that industry where you can, because you start questioning yourself, you start comparing yourself. But I do think self-belief and groundedness is the way forward. I think it's very spiritual acting, and you got to have that grounding to settle your mind before you move forward. If you believe, things will come to you. The universe will give you that.
Yeah.
I think.
What's meant for you will not pass you by.
There we go. We're full of quotes.
Oh, we needed a little woo-woo in here. I love it.
It was coming. I knew it. Yeah.
I suppose I would say, why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your intention? I think for me, it's always about the intention. Like I want to create art because I want to make other people feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
That's my why. That's my intention, right? I want to tell stories that are going to make people feel seen and validated and heard. And so I would just advise anyone to really get back to your why in those moments where you don't know what to do. Come back to your why and move forward from there.
You guys should cut those into Instagram clips. Those are very good.
Thank you so much. That's what we're going to do.
Okay. Before you go, we would love to play a little game of Would You Rather. Are you up for the challenge?
Oh my God. Yeah. Is it gross ones? You know how sometimes people are like, would you rather eat your own foot or your own hand?
No.
We're more refined on this podcast.
Come on. We're from London.
Come on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The British accents should have told me. It's fine. Go ahead. Please, I'm ready.
Would you rather live on a peaceful tropical island or a big bustling city?
Oof. The older I get, the more I feel island. As long as there's people there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Could be.
Yeah.
But I need a city, like a village.
Something nearby.
Can my island have a village? See, this is why I'm bad at rapid fire. Yes.
Would you rather have to start a new job every year until you retire, or have only one job for your entire career?
New job every year. Hands down.
Would you rather spend your money traveling the world but have few personal possessions, or have a really amazing house but never leave your hometown?
Traveling.
Yeah.
Although I'm becoming a homebody, I really like being at home. Thus the island thing. Yeah.
Would you rather have to wear all black every day for the rest of your life, or have to mix every color of the rainbow into your outfit every day?
That might be the hardest question you've asked. I'm going to go all black, but it would be covered in dog hair. There's just no stopping it. Most like all my workout clothes are all black because I don't like to make decisions first thing in the morning.
Yeah. I feel that.
Highly recommend. If you're a decision fatigue person, I don't do colored leggings. It's all black leggings and a top. Like that's the end. Yeah. So all black. Yeah.
Love that.
Would you rather be able to talk with animals or speak every language?
Oh my God, talk with animals. Oh my God. It's a great question.
That would be a new podcast in itself, wouldn't it?
That would be.
That's because people are less exciting to me than animals a lot of the time.
Would you rather always be 1 hour late or 1 hour early?
1 hour early. I was literally so anxious about being 7 minutes late for this podcast today, you guys.
It's all good.
It's fine. And then we were on the, it just was a bit of a nightmare.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
It was. Would you rather be covered neck to toe in tattoos or have one big face tattoo?
Oh my God. Oh God. I think I have to pick face tattoo because it would be easier to cover up with appropriate makeup. Whereas neck to toe would be a lot. And that sounds like it would be fast. Versus full body would be a lot. And I have one tiny tattoo on my foot and I just am such a baby. I can't do it. They hurt too much.
Would you rather have to speak in rhyme for the rest of your life or riddles for the rest of your life?
Probably riddles because I really love metaphors and I think they're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from a riddle.
Oh my God. Everyone would just be like so confused.
Like, what are you talking about?
Well, but you know what? No one would want to talk to me, so I just talk to the animals on my island. It's actually working out great.
Oh, yeah. Great. I love this scenario. This could be a film. I'm going to write it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and with my face tattoo.
This is it. Would you rather have more time or more money?
God, I think more time.
And would
Yeah.
you rather be a freelancer or employed full time?
Employed full time by like myself.
Okay. So you like your
Living
own business, I
Yes.
suppose. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
If I could be like doing the same TV show for like 10 seasons, a la Friends style, I think I would pick that.
Right.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that.
I see that.
But thank you so much for today. Where can we follow you on your journey? Where can our listeners find you on socials?
Yeah. Everything is really One Broke Actress. One Broke Actress on Instagram, on YouTube. Those are my most active platforms. The podcast is the One Broke Actress podcast. And there's just it's a lifetime of content in there.
I
And
love
I
that.
will read your DM. If I don't have time to answer, don't hate me, but I will read it.
Like, reply now. Reply. No.
Oh,
Literally. Well, thank you
Thanks so
so much
much.
for joining us. It's been wonderful.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to
Not the 9 to 5 podcast.
If you liked this episode, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, where we release weekly podcasts every Monday.
Comment below to let us know who you'd like to see next on our podcast.
Give this video a thumbs up and maybe share it with a freelance friend or two.
Until next week, everyone.
Keep freelancing.